So yeah, we're going to be reading or looking at this passage this morning. Yeah, definitely thought about this passage a lot. I pray it'll be a blessing to you all this morning. Thanks, Andrew, for reading. So we're going to just kind of walk through looking at mainly looking at the words of Jesus and how he interacted with this woman. First of all, it's always important to look at the context. Jesus has been in Jerusalem, Judea. He wants to head up north to Galilee to kind of get out of the way of the Pharisees. Some of John the Baptist's disciples are starting to follow him. And so to just kind of get out of that area, he's got to pass through Samaria. And so that's why he's heading north up through Sychar. Those first couple verses tell us that. But as we look at verse number 7, we find that it just says, I'll read that real quick. There came a woman of Samaria to draw water. Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." One thing I'd like to point out about this, and this is kind of my first point, and it's so basic, but it's really amazing, is that Jesus pursues. Jesus takes the initiative. Jesus reaches out. This is a theme that actually we see throughout the Bible. So this is just kind of one instance that we can note that Christ sees. Yeah, just takes this opportunity to engage. There's so many scriptures, and I want to just read a couple that captivate this. And my desire is for us to really grasp this depth that Christ pursues. And it's by his initiation that we are all here today, through our history, right? And so this woman, we'll hear a little more or learn more about her as we read about this, get to know the story a little better. But this is not normal for Jesus to engage with this type of person. She's a woman, for one thing, and that was just kind of not kosher in those days. But we do learn about her history a little bit later and find her past. But this is not an obstacle for Jesus. But the awesome thing is that Jesus pursues, and Jesus pursues not only her, but Jesus pursues you and I. This is from just a reference from John 15. "You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you go and bear fruit, and that your fruit will remain." Jesus, each one of us that has come to believe, Jesus has chosen us. And as we think about Paul, I was trying to think of some different examples of just the different ways Christ interacted with different disciples. And there was the fisherman, there was Matthew, the tax collector, there was Mary Magdalene, who was bound by these evil spirits that Jesus pursued. Every one of us have an amazing story, but Paul is really kind of the showcase person that was so unlikely. It's some of these people that Ryan is dealing with right now, and it's God's plan, but we don't even understand it all. But Paul, he proclaimed, "I am the worst of sinners," and that was probably true. I mean, going so opposed, not just kind of apathetic, not just living in the world, but seeking to persecute and destroy the way. There he is on the road to Damascus. And Christ engages with him. Paul didn't repent, really. He hadn't got his heart ready or anything like that. But Christ took the initiative and shone that light and broke through. And Paul's whole world was changed. Christ is the pursuer. And I hope that we can grasp that. And it's not only for salvation. And this is her situation here. And she's not a believer right yet. She's almost like maybe a little bit of a God fear. But when we think about God in general, so Christ shows us a clear picture of who God is, right? But as we turn to the Old Testament, we don't have to look very far. I think it's Genesis chapter 3, where God the Father pursues Adam and Eve in their sin. It's his initiation. He's coming. And I want us to grasp that this morning, that he is pursuing us to initiate our salvation, pursuing us in our sin, pursuing us sometimes in our apathy, pursuing us in just the regular everyday life. Isn't this the most simple thing? He just asked for a glass of water. Sometimes we expect the grandiose power encounters with the Lord, maybe in our atmosphere of the church. But Christ is engaging with us in the simple things also. Another example that I really wanted to record, and it's a little bit grotesque, but it's exciting, is that how God pursued the children of Israel so unworthy. And we know the story of Abraham, how God called Abraham. God called Jacob as he was getting out of town to save his life, right? But there's a passage in Ezekiel that I want to read that God gives a description of him stepping down in pursuit. Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 4 or 6. As for your birth, on the day you were born, your navel cord was not cut, nor were you washed with water for cleansing. You were not rubbed with salt, nor even wrapped in clothes. No eye looked with pity on you. Rather, you were thrown out in the open field. You were abhorred on the day you were born. When I passed by, I saw you squirming in your blood. I said to you, while you were in your blood, live. Yes, I said to you, while you were in your blood, live. That's Jesus' call to this woman to come to life. And I pray that whoever has not heard that call will receive it. And that's what we want to talk about more. There's a great song that it's called Hallelujah, I have Christ. I have Christ. And there's so many wonderful, just the hymns we've already sang this morning have touched on God's work in our lives. And it's him that does it. But there's this, I'll just read it briefly. It says, I had no hope that you would own a rebel to your will. Sounds like Paul. And if you had not loved me first, I would refuse you still. Christ is the initiator. He pursues. He yearns to give us something very special. That's the first point. Point number 2, God is a gift giver. Verse 10, if we just scroll down there, Jesus answered and said to her, if you knew the gift of God, the heart of God is to give. As if we think of all the amazing gifts that we have, it's incredible. It really is. And sometimes, I was like, okay, God, help me be a more thankful, grateful person. And sometimes just like, okay, how can I do that? But I've found if I start taking away things out of my life, then I suddenly realize what all I have. And like back in the heart of COVID days, there was the quarantine. So I don't know how many of y'all were quarantined, but just not being able to get out. We were quarantined for a little while while we were in Jamaica, the capital. We had just gotten back, and that was such a pain to be kind of stuck, right? But the gift of freedom to get out. Ryan is. I'm sure he's longing for the gift to move around freely. That's just a thing that we just so take for granted, right? the gift of just the senses. You just take the senses and just basic senses. Back to COVID, Carrie and I lost our sense of taste for a short season. I think it was like 4 days. But all the joy of like just the simple things of eating. Just how basic is that? We're seeing these sweet rolls back here and some other good food that we're ready to eat, right? But just think if we couldn't taste that, or the simple joy of feeling a breeze. There's so many things that if we start taking away, we realize that God is a giver of good things, amazing things. Creation, right, it just blows us away. Y'all are really blessed in New York. Down in Texas, it's pretty flat, but there's some awesome things down there too. But God yearns to give gifts. And there's a special gift, though, that just, it's like the rising sun. It's just above and beyond all the other gifts that God has given to us. Yeah, James 1:17 says, every good thing given, every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation. God is the giver of good gifts. Jesus, in this next point, actually, it's still actually there in verse 10, says, if you knew. The exciting thing about Jesus is that he recognizes this amazing gift, but he's not just like, oh, if you want this, you can have it, or by the way, there's this pretty cool gift over here on the side, but Jesus is passionate. Jesus, it's kind of like, are you aware of this amazing? Let's say like what was it, the old days where they had this sweepstakes where they showed up at your door and they've got the big check, $2 million or something like that. It's kind of like that. If you knew. There's a couple verses that really depict this well. That Jesus is passionate. Matthew 11:28. Come to me. Can you hear that desire? It's not just, oh yeah, go ahead, go for it over there. The desire to give this. Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. As we think about Jesus' passion and excitement about this gift that he's longing to offer this lady, there's other areas that this is kind of fleshed out. But, as we see the Great Commission and Jesus' desire that the world would get that gift, we see his passion once again come out. And I hope we can grasp that as Jesus' desire, not just to offer it, but he's really excited that we would take that gift and fully enjoy it. So what is this gift? Right? That's the question. And getting back to verse 10, it says, if you knew the gift of God and who it is who says to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. So this gift is this living water. We understand that Jesus actually is this living water. Jesus is offering us himself. I can just read it for us, but it's in John 6. To clarify this, because in this point, it's a little unclear whether the living water is, or just really what it is. And so if we turn to John 6, we find that Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me will not hunger. He who believes in me will never thirst. A little bit later there in John 7, it says, Now on the last day, the great day of the feast, Jesus stood and cried out, saying, If anyone is thirsty, let him come to me and drink. He who believes in me, as the scripture said, from his innermost being will flow rivers of living water. Jesus longs to give us this gift, right? He's passionate about it. He's pursuing, and now this gift is himself. As we think about all the great gifts that God offers through the senses we touched on, creation. We think of our wives, we think of our children, we think of health, right? Some of us, our health is failing. We think of our freedom. We think of just being able to be able to walk. My knees went out one time. I woke up one morning. I was like, oh my word! But just the gift of being able to move around. All these things are awesome, right? But the greatest of all these gifts is Jesus Christ. The great thing about Jesus, among many things, is that this description of him is this living water. He talks about, or touched on how it says, actually later down in verse 14, it says, "This I will give it to you, and they will never thirst." So this is not just any gift that you're going to enjoy for a while, then maybe forget, or it'll kind of wear out or whatever. But no, this gift is different. This gift is unique. This gift will you might sense that you need it more and more, but it's going to always be there. It's going to always give you what really is yearning in your soul. This is like a gift like none other. This gift offers full satisfaction. And as I say that, I can only imagine, because I've been there. It's like, okay, is that really true, Daniel? Like, are we really satisfied, those of us who know Christ? Are we living this life of drinking? And this is actually later on it talks about this water leads, verse 14, becomes a well of water springing up. Are we living that reality? And of course I've got to ask myself that question myself. Are we? And more often than not, probably not. But it's not because the gift is insufficient. The lack is on our part, I would suggest. And as I've studied this passage, and really, Carrie's, we talked about it a bit. It's like so hard to tell you guys this gift is satisfying when, am I experiencing that myself? And as I thought and prayed about this quite a bit, I realized just one thing that I hope that we can grasp today is this is a gift. So what do you do with the gift? You receive it, right? And Jesus is offering himself to this woman, and this gift is to quench and to transform. But it's only it's only kind of like activated when you receive it. And so that's it. That's the answer, is to receive Christ for our salvation, because it talks about this living water will lead to eternal life. That's the first thing, right? But it's also to quench, to satisfy on an ongoing basis. So those of you who have not received salvation, God is offering you this gift. It's a free gift to be received. But for us who have made that, who have received Christ as our Lord, experience him to the daily like we want. Maybe in our quiet times we encounter Jesus, but through the rest of our day we're like, Lord, I want to know you more. I want to taste you. I want to encourage you, or just say, continue to receive him as a gift throughout your day. And it's just an accepting. Jesus, you're with me. We just sang that song earlier that, I forget the line, but it was, he was with us at all times. And as we are working, as we're at the hospital, whatever job that God has given us talents to do, he wants to be there with us. He doesn't want us to be unsatisfied. He doesn't want us to be dry or thirsty. He wants to fully satisfy. But if we can grasp this, you guys, this morning, is to receive him as a gift. He's there for the taking, to take him. Point number, that was point number 4. Point number 5 is in verses 15 to 18, and this is I just love how this gift has already been offered to this lady. Of course, he's pursued her. He's offering this gift. She hasn't repented of her sin necessarily, right? Just yet. So verse 15 to 18, I'll read that quickly. The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this drink, so that I will not be thirsty, nor come all the way here to draw." He said to her, "Go, call your husband and come here." The woman answered and said, "I have no husband." Jesus said to her, "You have correctly said, 'I have no husband,' for you have had 5 husbands, and the one you have now is not your husband, and this you have said truly." So this point is that Jesus knows. He knows our past. He knows our present. He knows our past. He knows all the things we've done, mistakes we've made, the sins, rebellion, all that. And yet, despite all those things that would seem like those would totally disqualify us from this gift, he offers that. Isn't that comforting? Amidst all our failures, amidst our maybe turning away, maybe feeling like, Jesus, I'm not feeling super satisfied, so I'm gonna pursue, and you would never say that, of course, but I'm gonna pursue another just kind of interest because I'm not being lifed by you. He knows that, and he wants to offer himself. You think of the disciples. What unlikely candidates to be people that would be tagging along Jesus, the Son of God, who had come into the world, was prophesied from so early on. Wouldn't it look a lot better if he had a lot more put together group of people? The zealot, Mary Magdalene was not a disciple, but she was with them. Had been demonized. These tradesmen, these fishermen. And he knew all of their pasts. But isn't that comforting to know that he knows us and he wants us? He wants us dearly. One thing I think is important about this passage about Christ, look at this woman, is he doesn't ignore it. So it's not just come to Jesus and you can continue your lifestyle. No, not like that. He addresses it, doesn't he? He brings it up, but not in a condemning way, not in a shameful way. And what I think is actually significant here is that she takes responsibility in some way. She does say that I'm not married, which obviously he tells her you are with a man, but she doesn't make up stories and lies. So that I think is really significant, because if we're kind of playing a game with God, like, oh no, I'm not doing that, or sugarcoating sin, that doesn't work. That doesn't work with Jesus. The gift is available for us, but he also wants us to come to him in truth. And actually, the passage later on, I should have giving you a little prep. The reason why we're not covering that there's another portion that's really important about the Holy Spirit. That's kind of another talk. And Jesus kind of gets into worship and some of the misunderstandings that the Samaritans had. Yeah, Jesus knows her well, and there's a psalm Psalm, I think it's 8, where it talks about David looks up at the stars and just is mesmerized at God's amazing creation, and then his knowledge of him. And that's God, isn't it? Giver of all these amazing gifts, giving us the cosmos to see, and then his pursuit of us individually, despite all the things that we've done, but still he's coming to us. This woman is transformed. As we look, I didn't have Andrew read it because I thought it was going to be too far down, but this woman is actually, the Bible here it says earlier, she came at the 6th hour as well, which is pretty abnormal. It's a pretty hot part of the day. She's probably trying to avoid the crowds, right? Because of her rocky past. But in verse 25, so she's trying to avoid probably there's some shame involved with what's going on in her life, and probably trying to avoid people and stuff like that. But let's see how this woman changes. And this talk of the living water coming out, maybe we can actually see that happening in her life. Verse 25, the woman said to him, I know that Messiah is coming. So this is in reference to some explanation Christ had given to her about place of worship and how it was to be done. And so she's kind of responding to that by saying, I don't understand all that, but the Messiah, he's going to clarify. I know that the Messiah is coming, he who is called the Christ. When that one comes, he will declare all things to us. Jesus said to her, I who speak to you am he. At this point, his disciples came, and they were amazed. They were amazed that he had been speaking with a woman, yet no one said, what do you seek, or why do you speak with her? Here it is, verse 28. So the woman left her water pot and went into the city and said to the men. So that's interesting. Now she's directly going to men. Come see a man who told me all the things I have done. This is not the Christ, is it? What a transformation of her kind of hiding in the shadows, trying to avoid people, and now she's transformed. She's going to the marketplaces, going to men, not just kind of hiding away from women, but she's going to men to tell them about this encounter that she's had. Why do you think that happened? I think she believed. She didn't know all about Jesus and everything, but she had enough engagement with Christ to believe, to recognize this is more than a prophet who knows me, who's offering me this kind of mysterious living water, and her life is different. And living waters are starting to flow, right? This is my challenge to us today, is to take Christ for his word, to receive him as the giver of living water, and that living water that can truly satisfy. If you've not done that, I want to just invite you to recognize that Jesus is pursuing you, to recognize that God has good gifts for you, to recognize that he knows your past, and to recognize that the most satisfying thing you could ever want is standing before you and is offering to give himself. And so the way this transaction happens, that you can make him yours, is to receive him just as a gift. So I want to invite you, if that's where you are. If you've already made that decision, I want to encourage you, those of us who have made that decision, to just think about, am I satisfied right now? Am I living a satisfied life in Jesus? And if you're not, to receive Jesus again and again, not for salvation, but in an abiding, ever-present water that will quench your soul every day. What I'm talking about is it's an experience that I have often, is to yearn for more abiding, more experiencing God all the time. And I want that for everybody here. So I'm just gonna wrap up with a prayer. But if anybody here, young or old, has not received Christ as living water that will really satisfy, I want to encourage you. Actually, I want to just maybe have a little quiet time, a couple minutes, to go to God about this. If you're feeling like maybe something's stirring in your heart, I want to just to pray to God about this, and then I want to ask you to take some action. And I'm not going to call you to come forward because I haven't talked to Dave about that, but we all need action points to make things happen, right? And so I want to take some quiet, a little minute of quiet, but I want to challenge you to go tell somebody today that you want that living water, that you are satisfying your life with other things. This lady was satisfying her life with men, and they had left her probably high and dry. Maybe there's some other issues in her life. We don't know totally. Maybe that's you. Not maybe, we're all there, right? We've all pursued different things in our lives. But if you have not received the gift of salvation, if you've not received Jesus, I want to offer that, give that time. And then those of you who have, to just quiet your heart and ask God, am I really satisfied on a daily basis? Like, am I really, am I flowing with living water? And then maybe why not? And the Lord yearns. Remember that if you only knew, like, do you just hear that passion? And that's his desire for us today, is that we would be living a satisfied life. And I think it's just a simple acceptance. Jesus is with me. It's a reality. It's the truth. He's with us always, and he's our best friend. And there's so much more, and that's why we spend time with him, to know him deeper and deeper and deeper. But I'd like to just bow our heads for a couple minutes. Lord, we thank you, God, for your word. And thank you, God, for your presence, even now with us here. You're always with us, but thank you for your presence. Lord, I pray for you to move and just touch hearts. Those who don't know you, Lord, I pray they would be aware that they do not know you, have not bowed their knee to you. And I pray, Lord, that you would make that clear. And those, Father, that have but are not satisfied, Lord, I also pray they would be honest. And also that you would meet them in that place, Lord, and let them know, God, in a way that only you can do, that it's a gift to be received.